So we're in Proverbs, and we just talked about the fear of the Lord, keeping us away from evil. And verse 17 of chapter 8, it says this: I love those who love me, and those who diligently seek me will find me. Riches and honor and life are with me, enduring wealth and righteousness. And this is talking about pursuing wisdom. Once again, wisdom is personified, wisdom is spoken of as a person. And we do know that Jesus is a personification of wisdom. And this is very much similar if we even look in James in the New Testament, in chapter 1 and verses 5 and 6, it says to ask without doubt for wisdom. If you need wisdom, ask without doubting, ask in faith, and you'll get it. So what about, why don't we just believe that and do that? And here it says the same thing. Those who diligently seek me will find me. The same kind of idea here. If you really want wisdom, you can ask and you'll get it. You can seek it and you'll find it. Those are promises of the Bible. The matters come on most of these promises that we get, or are we going to do our part? Are we going to, pursue, like even in Psalm 1, when we looked at that, he who meditates upon his word day and night, in everything he does, he'll prosper, he'll succeed. And so, but who's willing to do the first part, which is meditating his word day and night? And so, there are if-then statements throughout the scriptures and wonderful promises, but some of them take into account our responsibility. So moving on to chapter 9, it's still a chapter, like I said, 7 through 9 are pretty much all on wisdom. In chapter 9 and verses 8 and 9, it says, do not reprove a scoffer lest he hate you. Reprove a wise man and he will love you. Give instruction, verse 9, to a wise man and he will be still wiser. Teach a righteous man and he will increase his learning. So here's something, and you can use this on yourself. It says, reprove a scoffer. Do not reprove a scoffer lest he hate you. There's people that if you try to correct them in any way, you become an object of their hatred. And basically, who is that? It's a scoffer. In other places, it will equate that same thing with a fool, or the opposite of a righteous man, because it goes on to say, give instruction to a wise man. So the opposite of the wise man is a fool, and he will still be wiser. Teach the righteous man, and he will increase his learning. So, there's characteristics in here that we can look at, and we can apply those to ourselves. If you find yourself and someone tries to correct you and you just berate them, scoff them, whatever, you may be a fool, or at least you're acting like it. And so we can use those for ourselves, but we can also help identify if you're in a situation and you try to talk to somebody and you find out you just become the object of their hatred, and all you were trying to do was instruct in that situation some way, you probably should just back off and not say anything, because it's not going to work. It depends, because you're working with someone that cannot receive it. Okay, so then moving on out of those chapters that really concentrate just pretty much on wisdom, in chapter 10, it talks about the wisdom here. The wise of heart will receive commands, but a babbling fool will be thrown down. So once again, it's just saying the same thing that we just looked at there in those other chapters, is a wise person's, how do you know if they're wise? They're going to listen, they can receive, they can change, they can take instruction, they don't scoff at the one that comes to reprove them. We even see, we look back in the Old Testament in time of David, when some guy came by and was just cursing David and whatever, and one of David's mighty men said, I think his captain of the army said, should I, go strike him down and kill him? And David said, no, if his curses had anything to him, they'll come to pass. If not, we don't have to worry about it. The wise man's doesn't have to take up for himself, doesn't have to take up the offense, doesn't have to do that. They know that, one, their behavior is enough to counteract that, and secondly, the Lord's going to, defend them if they'll walk in the ways pleasing to Him. In fact, we see that. I might as well jump to that right at this moment, which is way ahead of where I was at, but I just thought of it, so I'm going to do that. In Proverbs 16:7, it says, when a man's ways are pleasing to the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. And so what we can see there is, if we make our ways pleasing to the Lord, then the Lord defends us. If we're just trying to defend ourselves and we're trying to live any way we want to, then it's up to you to take care of yourself. But here, and people say it takes two to resolve a situation. That's not exactly true. There has to be cooperation at some point, but here it says if one person will make their ways pleasing to the Lord, he'll make even their enemies to be at peace with him. Now that may take some time. It could be quick, it could be a long time, but here it's really, if you'll make your ways right, then the Lord begins to act on your behalf. So that we can always go and just say, Lord, what is it in me that I need to change? What is in me? What I need to learn from this? What do I need to see? What do I need to do? Whatever. And, we can make our ways right as best as possible. And then he said, he'll take up for us. And that's good to have him on your side. Into chapter 11, the first verse is, a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. The Lord doesn't like people cheating. They give something to one person on one scale and something on another scale. Treat everyone the same. It says of the Lord himself, his character is like that. He's not a respecter of persons. So he doesn't adjust his scales to the person. He has a standard, and he looks at everybody through that standard. And so he expects us, if we're going to be pleasing to him, to do the same thing. Verse 4, riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. And that's something to remember in the day that we're in, when there's, I just saw a helicopter fly by the window real low. Anyway, it's something to remember in our day, is that when all the chaos is going on in the world, that riches do not profit in the day of wrath. If there's just calamity all around you, no one's going to ask you how much money you have. It's a matter of, righteousness in that day of wrath, or righteousness in the day of judgment is what you want to have. You die, go to heaven, and you're standing before the Lord, and you say, hey, I got a pretty big bank account, and that's really not the issue at that point. Where have you stood? Have you used what you have? We just talked about how you'll prosper with wisdom and that kind of thing. If you use what you have and you've done well, what do you do with it then? And that's the real test of whatever we have in this life. What do we do with it? And that's what we're looking to do, and that's what Proverbs helps instruct us to take that into consideration and do what's right. There's a verse in chapter 11, verse 10. It says, when it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there is glad shouting. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices. People are watching, and they want to see the righteous rewarded. They really do. They want to see that if you're gonna sacrifice and do what's right, that you get rewarded. And it says, when the wicked perish, there is glad shouting. And I've never had this illustrated so well as the day I woke up one morning and I turned on the television, and they just showed people rejoicing and shouting and dancing and stuff all over the world. And it was the day that Saddam Hussein was hanged. It was that morning. And they were showing it, and just people around the world that were from that regime that had left there and gone to other countries, and even people in that country were rejoicing. When the wicked perish, there's glad shouting. And it was really funny. There's a song to this. When the city rejoices, when the righteous prosper, the city rejoices. When the wicked perish, there are shouts of joy. And that song was going through my mind that whole night before that. And I woke up and I turned on the TV and I saw that. It was really a strange thing. But it really illustrated this, that, the world in some ways is out there looking and wants to see that there's justice, that the righteous behavior is going to be rewarded and the wicked are going to perish. And they do, and they are. Sometimes it's not in our timing, and that's why we got the Psalms. So you can go back there and say, Lord, why are the wicked prospering? And you can go and learn through David's experience of him being anointed king at one point, and still he's not king. In fact, he's being chased all around and hiding in caves, and he's more righteous than the guy chasing him. But why is he having to run? Why is he going through all of this? And so we see that, and we've got these promises, but these promises are tested through time. They're tested through circumstances. And so we have the promises, and that's where our faith is really refined. And the whole Bible is bringing us to that point, that our faith has to stand. There is a victory in this world that overcomes the world, and it says in the New Testament, it is our faith. Our faith is the thing that overcomes this world. And it's faith in a God that is true to his word, is true to his character, is true to his nature. And that's going to be what will take us through any situation that we're in.